2026 is going to be an awesome year. We got some pretty cool stuff coming up. First off, we got Foundations of Recovery. This is our flagship program. We're starting it in January.
This is for anyone, man, woman, or couple who wants to come and reclaim their heart from shame, trauma, and betrayal. We start off with an education on all sorts of principles, give you the common language. We feed you from a fire hose in terms of all things recovery.
It is such a great start to recovery. And we get at the roots of things, Tyler. This isn't like any other program. Like, this is our healing journey in process, and Foundations is where we begin.
If you look at the value that you're getting there to kick off a good recovery with all of the right education, all of the right language, and a team to get you started while also being directed by Brandon and myself through the whole process, what a deal.
So if you're interested, if you're struggling, if you've been wanting to do something for a long time, jump into this. This only comes around every so often, and we would love to have you there.
Click the link in the description to sign up for it. And to make it even sweeter, we're also including a raffle for a free pass to the Radiant Dawn retreat. Anyone who signs up for Foundations will be added to the raffle for that free Radiant Dawn pass. If you're a man and you sign up for Foundations, your name still gets entered, and you can give that pass away if you win it to any woman that you want to.
So what you're saying, Tyler, is if you sign up and participate in Foundations, you could possibly go to Radiant Dawn for free?
That's exactly what I'm saying, which is crazy because Foundations by itself is already an insane value.
Man, I sound so salesy. But it actually is awesome. So come to Foundations. And even if you don't come to Foundations, sign up for Radiant Dawn. It's beyond therapy, the best healing experiences that you can have.
Click the link below and come join us.
How can I become more emotionally healthy to become more physically healthy?
What's up, you guys? Welcome to the Therapy Brothers podcast. I'm Brandon.
I'm Tyler. We're brothers.
We're therapists.
We're not afraid of your questions.
So bring it. All right, good question, Tyler. Before we answer that question, I got a really quick review. So the review says, "You are awesome and have helped me see things in a new way, a way that has created space for growth away from the old mindset. Thank you for doing this work. I share your podcast with as many people as I can." So I like that review because I'm all about a shift in mindset, paradigm shift, change of perspective, whatever you want to call it, is getting out of your old stinking thinking and seeing the world in a different way so you can create different outcomes. So
yeah, Brandon, I had just that's a great review. I had an interesting one of my clients taught me something this week. I was sitting in a session with them, and he's a Christian man, and we were talking about this very concept of shift. You know, how do you go from having repetitive patterns in your life that are the same things over and over again to something different? And he said, you know, based off of kind of Christian theology, he said, well, if you think about it, everything that was created, the world, water, people, animals, everything was created spiritually first and then physically. And it kind of hit me sideways, like that's the business of what we're in right now in a lot of ways, is how do we make that spiritual creation of something new, a belief system, so to speak, and then the physical will start to follow it. Yep. And so that was great review. Thank you for sharing.
Awesome. So we have a guest here with us today, and she has, I think, a really interesting story and question to ask us. So I'll just kind of hand it over to her. Joan, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for having the courage to be here. If you could just kind of tell us who you are, maybe a little bit of your background, and then fire away. Ask us whatever question you need to.
Okay. I have realized over the course of my life that I have a pattern of codependency, and which I define as doing too much for others, and at the expense of self-care often. And so that's kind of come to a head for me because I was recently diagnosed with Hashimoto's, and which is an autoimmune disease condition. And I want to complete some online schooling that I began a couple years ago. And so I am trying to figure out how to do what feels like a really rigorous new diet plan that my doctor suggests, and deal with the emotions of letting that go, because overeating has been the way I comforted myself when I was experiencing codependent or almost any difficult situation.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm about 50 pounds overweight. I'm 57 years old. And so this is a pattern that I have had for a long time. And I'm just wondering how to break that pattern so that I can move forward and accomplish some of the things that I want to. And because I think there are so many exciting things ahead of me.
Awesome.
And I want to major in communications. And so I think I can live a really blessed life for the next 30 years. So
I
that's
think
what
you're
I'm planning for.
Joan, I think you're going down the right train of thought. So I actually really appreciate what you're asking, because a lot of people, when they get diagnosed with something like Hashimoto's, they go to their doctor. They want just the old Western medical model of healing. They want their doctor to fix it for them. And autoimmune is interesting because, from my understanding of autoimmune, two of the major factors of your autoimmune disease firing up and really being a problem are one, your diet, and two, your stress level. And so and what do you know, your stress level also plays into your diet, right? The more stressed out you are, the more bad you eat, and it's this vicious cycle that feeds the autoimmune disease, and your body literally starts rejecting itself and fighting against itself.
Exactly.
So
there's
for
another element to that too, Brandon, with the recipe that you're drawing up, is you're saying, the diet and the stress. Well, where's the stress coming from? And what Joan is saying is that in a lot of ways, she's carrying all sorts of other people's stress,
yes,
including her own, usually probably things that are beyond her control that she's tried to control for so many years. Naturally, there's going to be just this, I mean, you're overloaded with stress now. How are you going to cope? You eat. And when you gain weight, then it also comes with all these other breakdowns, not to mention everything else that breaks down with continued stress. And so it's just this big cycle that continues to kind of carry itself. Joan, I'm wondering how many years have you been struggling with this idea of, in your mind, needing to lose weight or be healthy? And what are some of the tactics that you've tried over the years?
I have felt like I needed to lose weight since I was a teenager. But when I look back at pictures, I think I see a beautiful young woman.
Mm-hmm.
And so sorry that I wasted time even worrying about that. But the time where I started gaining weight, it was when I got married and almost immediately got pregnant. And so I gained 50 pounds then. I have been able to let's see, to back up just a little bit. In my teenage years, I did go on a couple of diets, and I was able to, for the most part, maintain an ideal weight. I feel like it was, and especially looking back. Since I have been married, I went on a few diets and was able to lose weight to what I felt like was an ideal weight. And then, but I would stay on for periods of time and then get pregnant again and, gain the weight again, or just go through really stress any time that I had, the natural stresses of life, sometimes extraordinary stress, then I would gain a little bit more. I'm probably at the heaviest that I've ever been right now.
mm-hmm.
And but I did have a doctor tell me the last time I was at a certain weight, he said, "This is perfect. You don't need to lose any more weight." And that was about 12 years ago. And so I've gradually gained weight since then.
Um,
And so,
so yeah, the thing you said that's just kind of really going around in my mind is basically, I'm going to say it in different words, but for a lot of my life since I was a teenager, I've been in my own head rejecting myself and telling myself I'm not okay, I'm not beautiful, I'm not thin enough. But then when you look at yourself and you see pictures, you think, oh my goodness, like I was just fine all along.
yes.
Um, it's autoimmune. We talk about your body turning on itself. What I'm hearing is in some ways, figuratively, you had an emotional autoimmune disorder where you were turning on yourself. You were constantly picking at yourself, seeing that you weren't okay for so long. And I actually there's a paradox here that's hard to understand, Joan, but I want you to see it. And I think it's one of the keys to healing at the very roots of things. And right now you're saying I'm 57, I'm overweight. 12 years ago, I was at my ideal weight. There's this dialectic. Tyler loves to talk about dialectics. So there's these two opposing things at play, and that's acceptance and change. And one of the first things that you need to work on is not the codependency. It's not the self-care. It's not exercising more. It's not eating healthier. Those things will be done in vain. You'll end up back to the same weight that you were unless you start with actually loving and accepting yourself and knowing you are beautiful exactly where you are right now today. So how do you do that, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Joan.
I think the patterns that you're talking about that you've both expressed, I identify with completely. Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
So
So is it possible, you say you're overweight, is it in the realm of possibility to actually see yourself as enough and beautiful and okay right now?
Yes, I think that I can do that. Yes.
Yeah. Tyler, do you know how? How does she go from this, rejecting herself in shame is not going to get her to healing, right?
right, shame. We already know that shame is the least sustainable form of motivation for change, right? And so most of us, I think a lot of people listening to this episode right now are really going to be relating to the principles we're talking about here, because most of us have a default setting of trying to motivate ourselves from a place of shame. And I just want to back up for a second. And Joan, when you were talking and you were kind of thinking about that younger girl who thought she was overweight, and you're seeing these beautiful pictures of her, I know some people can't see you, but the look on your face went with the tone in your voice that there was something there that was starting to emerge as you were thinking about that younger girl. There was some type of an emotion that was starting to come up that, I don't know. Can you name that? Can you name what that was?
Oh gosh, sorrow, sorrow for wasted time.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorrow for wasted time. And based on that sorrow, it seemed as though you were accessing a level of love and compassion for that younger girl who had carried so many of those beliefs for so long. And now you're looking back at that and going, I was living a lie. Like I was actually living a lie. And I think with the situation and scenario we're talking about, Brandon was starting to get to this. Most often, we're talking about like losing 50 pounds. Almost everyone who focuses on losing the weight never sustains it.
Yeah, I've noticed that in myself and others.
Right. It's one of these principles in life where we have to put our focus on the proper place, and then the outcomes take care of themselves. And so the proper place, and this is where Brandon's going, is the proper place is to go and do all of the things, to get healthy, to eat right, to exercise, to take care of your body. But what Brandon's getting to is even below that, you're probably not going to do those things unless there's something from the inside out, and I mean it here in your heart as much as in your head, that says, I'm worth taking care of.
Yes.
I'm worthy of love, belonging, acceptance as I am right now. And that belief system is what will go and produce the actions of self-care and eating properly and exercising. And by the way, you'll lose weight.
Yeah. We see this all the time with treating addiction, right? So somebody's trying to stay sober. They want sobriety, and they think, well, if I'm sober, then all of my problems will go away. And so they want to focus on white knuckling and being sober enough so that all their problems will go away. Well, what they find is they can get some sobriety, their problems don't go away. The more they white knuckle, the more they want to act out and relapse. And so it's this, the solution is actually feeding the problem. And we see it with dieting all the time, is I need to lose weight in order to be good enough. Well, the problem is you don't think you're good enough. And if you did love yourself, then I really like how Tyler put it. Let the byproduct be you're losing weight. Let the real work be nurturing and loving and having compassion for yourself. If I go exercise today because I feel like I'm fat, I could lose a little weight because I exercise. But if I go exercise today because I'm worth it and I love myself, and by dang, I'm going to take care of myself because I love myself so much, that's why I'm going to exercise. And however much weight I lose or not lose, I'm going to go do it out of that reason. I'm much more likely to go exercise tomorrow and the next day. So do you see that, Joan?
Oh, yes. I remember in one of your previous episodes, you mentioned Hashimoto's briefly, and you said, actually, it's a condition of your heart shutting down. And I thought that was so true. And I heard another phrase, I wish I could remember who said it, but they said, you can't hate yourself to success. I don't know, maybe I heard it on this podcast, but I think that is so true. And so I have been trying to talk to myself in that way, being really kind, really compassionate with myself.
Yep.
Lately, I've been trying that.
I hate to admit this, but I was on Instagram this morning, and I follow all these therapists, and one of the therapists had posted that your intention is what you create. And so you think about that, your intention is what you actually create. So if my intention is self-hatred and self-rejection, and so that's why I exercise or diet or whatever it is, I'm still going to create self-rejection and self-hatred. But if my intention is self-love, then I'm going to create that. And Tyler says, what do you know? By the way, you'll lose weight. You probably will, but you may not. But even if you don't, you're going to be resonating in a place of love and peace and acceptance. And my guess, Joan, is that your Hashimoto's will decrease significantly if that's how you're feeling about you, right?
Yes.
So.
Brandon, can I give an example of this from our family history? I'm thinking
careful, Mom listens to the podcast.
Well, mom will appreciate this, Brandon. I think this is about our Grandpa Harris, who's Mom's dad. And I happened to be living. My grandfather, he ended up losing his first wife, and then he got remarried. And about the time he got remarried, my wife and I got married, and so we were living in his condominium when he died. And so we were able to kind of start going through things after he died. And one of the things we stumbled into were my grandfather's journals. And you guys have to understand that the way that Brandon and I knew our grandfather was that he was the happiest, most pleasant, most humble, most kind person you'd ever meet.
Remember our nickname for him?
Yeah, we called him Deaf Superman.
Because he's deaf.
Because Grandpa was deaf, right? He couldn't hear. And so when I started reading through Grandpa's journals, what I found is that Grandpa Harris wasn't always the way we knew him. He wasn't always Deaf Superman. He was depressed. He struggled with things. He felt like an outcast because of his hearing disability. He had a hard time with things. And one of the things that I loved about Grandpa Harris is that he decided to make that shift in his life. And this might be a little bit long, but I want to share it. He created for himself. He decided that he no longer wanted to be a victim. That's what I hear in you, Joan. You're like, I don't want to be a victim of life or circumstance. I want to create my new life. I have 30 years of good life ahead of me. And so he created what he called his Optimist Creed. And I just want to read a few of those. And he would, after he created this creed, he committed it to memory and he'd repeat it to himself in the mirror every single day. And he says, today, I promise myself to treat others like I want to be treated, to attend to the issue of the moment and doing first things first and doing them right, whether I like it or not, to be so strong that nothing can disturb my peace of mind, to talk health, happiness, and prosperity to every person that I meet, to look on the sunny side of everything and to make optimism come true, to think of only the best, work only for the best, and expect the best, only the best for the best, to forget the mistake of the past, to press on to greater achievements of the future, to look on the sunny side of everything and give every living creature a smile, to give so much time to the improvement of myself that I have no time to criticize others, to be just as enthusiastic about the success of others as I am of my own, to be too big for worry, too noble for anger, too strong for fear, and too happy to permit the presence of trouble. And there, he goes on and on. There's several more, but I'll share the last one: to become aware, to get involved, to care. Never forget that people don't care how much I know until they know how much I care. And Brandon, that's the man we knew.
That's Deaf Superman.
That's Deaf Superman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the point of it, and not knowing our grandpa, our audience is gonna be like,
Like, who's that guy? Yeah.
But he did leave a legacy. But I think the important part of that story, when you think about shifting, is he had this underlying self-rejection and shame going on. But one thing about him is he was consistent at feeding himself that positivity. And, he had all kinds of affirmations. He had his Optimist Creed. He had all kinds of things where his thinking was in the positive all the time. And that's what he resonated in. And what do you know? He had to work at it. Joan, and it's like that for all of us. I think we all have this struggle. We all have this depression. We all have this just hardness in our lives and in our hearts. But that's what life's about, is waking up in the morning and deciding, you know what, I can reject myself today, or I can love myself today. And I actually have that choice. And Joan, I can tell that you have that choice as well. And you're sick and tired of letting those voices of rejection have too much power, right?
Yes. And did you say his name was Harris, Grandpa Harris?
Uh-huh. That's right.
Did I have that right? But I think that I and your audience as well have known people like Grandpa Harris. And as I've gotten older, I look to older people like that who are modeling what I want to be. So I know that I don't have to just crumble and be really small for the next few decades, that I can thrive, and that will bless not only myself and help me live the life that Heavenly Father put me here to do, but also it will bless the lives of my children and grandchildren, as it has Grandpa Harris's children and grandchildren. And so that's what I want to be. I want to be like your Grandpa Harris. I think
that's a beautiful thought, Joan. That's a beautiful thought, Joan. I'm sitting here thinking, just picturing what 30 years from now you're going to have your own grandchildren cracking into your journals and going, Holy smokes. Like, look at the challenges she went through and what a beautiful life she created. Like, that's a pretty amazing thought, Joan.
It's a great legacy that we can give others, isn't it?
Yeah. Can I back up just a little bit? I do want to address the relational aspect to things. So the codependency and how that kind of plays in and so as you work on yourself, as you work on loving yourself and accepting yourself, codependency is a symptom of a lack of confidence and a lack of understanding of who you really truly are. So does
That
that,
sounds true.
yeah, that makes sense, right?
Yep.
Is if I don't know who I am, then I'm gonna turn to my relationships to try to get that question answered. So I'll be extra nice, I'll get taken advantage of, I'll give my power away, and I'll rely on others to give me that answer. As you being healthily boundaried is the opposite of codependency.
Yes.
So as you know yourself, as you have confidence in yourself, I think boundaries get a little bit boundaries are more kind of energetic than anything. It's how you show up in a relationship. And so when you're resonating in that self-love and self-acceptance, you will automatically step into being able to say no when you need to say no. I'm not taking people's stuff on when they bring their emotions to you. You don't hold that, you give it back to them. And so that's one of the first dominoes to fall once this self-love starts coming into place. And I got to warn you, Joan, this is also one of the things that can shove you right back into the old ways of doing things, because it gets hard, it gets challenging, and it's uncomfortable. The people who are used to taking advantage of you are going to want to continue to take advantage of the old, weak Joan who doesn't know herself.
Exactly. Yes. When I did my first 2 semesters of online school, I saw that really quickly. I have my husband and our youngest that lives at home still is, we're very supportive, but even then they're so excited for me to do school. But even then it's surprising, how much all of a sudden I'm not doing because I'm busy with school. And we're just, this is a really simple example with people that love me and support me, but they're kind of surprised, like, oh, that means I do the dishes and clean the bathrooms. And
yeah, actually.
Yep. Yes.
so there is kickback on not being codependent.
Yes.
Not to mention other relationships that are a little more complicated. So yeah, it's a
But
big deal.
But there's this like uncomfortableness because like your husband's upset that you're not doing the dishes. But
he doesn't.
I know.
I don't want to rat him out here because he's a great guy.
Okay, it was your son. No.
My son in the bathrooms, that is just not happening.
But you'll know there's this feeling of, okay, there's this uncomfortableness, relationships you don't like that I'm boundaried now, right?
Yeah.
But there's also this feeling of empowerment when you start to step into being authentic and being boundaried. It feels really good. At the same time, it feels kind of hard. And that's when you know you're doing it from a place of self-compassion and love. You're not doing it from a place of control. You're not trying to prove yourself. You're actually just stepping into who you are. And you feel that. You can absolutely feel it when you're boundaried.
Another example is making cookie plates for the neighbors. Of course, I am an excellent baker over the years. And so people, there's an expectation for me to do that. And I was standing there in Walmart and looking at the perfectly, beautifully packaged $5, candy boxes. And I thought, why am I baking? There are these beautifully made boxes that I could just wrap a bow around and say, Merry Christmas from the Corneas. Why am I involving myself in baking when that that is
Love
exactly,
it.
I'm not supposed to eat flour and sugar in excess right now. And as you bake, you are tasting things,
Yeah.
And so I tried to mention this to my husband, and he was like, he's got this look on his face like, that is such a new thought. I just can't even imagine not giving the neighbors the cookie plates, because that's what we do. And so,
That's a great
so
example. I love it.
that's a very simple and small thing, but isn't it those small things that add up?
That's a great start. I want to know, Joan, did you do cookie plates or chocolates this year?
I have been putting off baking because I do
Good.
not want to. I don't want to do that. And
Okay, don't
so,
do
but I
it.
have bought all the ingredients, but that can be food storage, right? And I can just go march myself back out to Walmart and get those $5 boxes.
Yes.
That's absolutely right. I know we're kind of getting close on time here, but I wanted to just share a couple of more thoughts that came from what you were saying, what Brendan just said. That idea of boundaries, and it sounds like you're there, you're testing it, you're doing it. I love it. Like in a few different places of life where you can win at it, which is awesome. We've said this before on the podcast, but we allow ourselves to be treated right up to the level we believe we're worthy of being treated. And so that's why all of that internal work that we're talking about, the self-care, the self-compassion, the affirmations, listening to the new story of what we want the truth to be instead of what we've thought the truth was for so long. As we do those things, the boundaries sort of grow into themselves. And Brandon also said something that I think is like maybe one of the codependent person's hardest things to manage, which is to let other people have their own emotions and to not take it all on and to be able to like have to own it and fix everything for everybody, but to really just be able to see people and show love, but give it back to them. And I was thinking, I gave all of my groups an assignment this week to watch Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, that story about Mr. Rogers.
Yeah.
There's a couple of moments in that movie where, and Brandon talked about the energy of it, you can feel the energy of Mr. Rogers being able to be in a really hard situation with somebody, show that he loves them, but let them have their own pain. And it's a really good example of that. And so for our listeners who are listening, maybe you've got a homework assignment too, to go watch Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood and see what it's like to not be codependent from Mr. Rogers.
Well, Mr. Rogers is probably basking in heaven right now, the highest degrees of heaven. But God is the best example of healthy boundaries. I mean, talk about allowing us to feel our own stuff, our own emotions, our own, and not taking it all on and letting us grow through our emotions. And so I really like what you said, Tyler. That codependency is very much tied to not wanting others to have pain and to have emotion. So like if your husband is going to feel awkward and uncomfortable and maybe a little bit ashamed because his wife just went to Walmart and bought some chocolates, then let him. Like,
that's his opportunity to grow.
Opportunity for him, right?
Such a small practice. We can just start there.
Yes. I like how you're picking out these little examples and opportunities for you to not take stuff on and to practice self-care. You're not going to be dipping your finger into that dough that's full of wheat, because that's not for you right now. And so you're not going to take that on, hit your husband's emotions or your neighbor's emotions or whatever, and you're going to care for you. Find those opportunities everywhere you possibly can, Joan. And the beauty of it is as you practice that, those boundaries and that self-care, it's doubly beneficial. You're not only are you going to be happier in your relationships and not have resentment in those relationships, you're actually doing some of the hardest therapeutic work for yourself. Is you're experiencing, I am enough. I can be empowered. I can do this. And so every opportunity you have to experience that will counteract the old way of codependency and will counteract that shame that says you're not worth it.
Yeah.
Joan, I know we're going to be wrapping up here in a second, but I just wanted to say, and I hope it comes through in the audio as well as it has with our meeting today, that Brandon talks a lot about this idea of frequency, energy, whatever you want to call it, like how you're showing up. From the energy that I felt from you today, like I just say, stay the course. You've got the right mentality. You're doing the right work. You're showing up and resonating in an energy that's really actually pretty beautiful. And Brandon and I just want to say thank you to you for your willingness to come on and share yourself this way. I know that your story is going to be valuable for other people. And the beauty is when you share your story, you're going to connect to other people who don't even know you. So thank you.
Yeah, John, thank you.
It's been my pleasure to be here. I was really looking forward to coming on and learning here today. And thank you so much for the work that you're doing, blessing our family.
You're welcome, and have a very Merry Christmas.
You too. Merry Christmas to you and your families.
Talk to you later, Joan.
See ya.
You guys, thank you for listening. If you've got something valuable from this, please feel free to share it with your friends. And we appreciate you being a part of our podcast.
Yep. See you guys later.